doing nothing. Well, we're going to be rebuilding the VF750F engine today, starting today, and there's quite a lot to get through. I've got millions of parts in boxes under the bench here and over there and up on the shelving, and I just need to sift through it all, work out what I need to replace, what I need to clean, what needs repairing, but it should be a fairly straightforward job. I've got the gasket set and I'm missing quite a few bits, and I'm sure there's going to be some extra items I'll need to order. We don't know, but we need to dig into it. And first things first, I'm going to start pulling out some pieces and seeing what I've got to put in first, and really one big jigsaw puzzle, but it should be fun. I'm expecting this to be a really quick process, and probably going to need to consult all my old videos to see how I took the ruddy thing apart, because I can't remember how it goes back together. It's quite an unfamiliar engine, it's quite old, 40 odd years old design, and yeah, and it's got some really funny quirks when it comes to the cam timing, so I'm going to need to make some marks and all that kind of thing where there aren't any presently on the cam sprockets. So let's dig in, see what we've got, see what we need. Let's start slinging this thing back together. So this is the upper crankcase. I think first thing I'm going to do, spin this round and put the selector drum back in that just slips in through there, and all the forks and the baffle plate, etc. Because that was kind of the last thing I took out, and that was a big drama. These are replacement cases, and on the old ones 2 of the 3 bolts hit sheared when I was trying to take the selector drum out. In hindsight, I could have just left it in there and given it a bit of a wash in situ, but you know, aluminium oxide corrosion and Loctite meant they weren't going to come out. This is the selector drum. It's going to need a little bit of a clean, and I think I'm going to need to go around that spindle there to, I wouldn't use the word hone, but maybe just slightly change its dimensions. These were the bits that caused me so much trouble when I was taking it apart. Anyway, let's get these bits cleaned up and back in. Yeah, but I think that there is a little bit tight for the end of the selector drum, so we'll need a bit of a clean up, because this is clearly not a matching part. Right, so I've given this a bit of a wash over with some brake cleaner, and this bearing here sounds alright. It's obviously very dry now, so that'll sort itself out as it's picking up engine oil. So let me just pop that through. Something like this is only doing 1 or 2 revolutions per, per day. There we go. So can you see that is a little bit tight? It should really freely spin in there. So it spins freely, then it doesn't. So I think that just needs a little bit of a going over with a bit of emery. We should be all good. Should just be able to spin that and let it freewheel, but yeah. Anyway, let's pull that out. Yeah, I don't have any emery, but a little bit of 1000 grit shouldn't do it any harm. So let's see. What I'll do is just wrap this round. Go. Just to clean up the surface more than anything. Yeah, I was going to use some assembly lube, but do you know what? I think I'll just put a bit of engine oil on it. That stuff's expensive. We'll keep it for the bearings and whatever. Okay. Right. We'll see how this is faring. It's gone quiet now, it's good. Yeah, could probably do it a little bit more, but I think we'll be good with that. That'll find its happy spot as it wears in and beds in together. We're all good with that. Right, cleaned up all these parts, which are all now in order, including this, because that does have an orientation. That's the left side one, goes on the right because the engine's upside down. Can't really mess them up because the pin has to sit in the slot of the selector drum. So we'll get all that back in a minute. I'm just going over the threads for the baffle plate because they've got a little bit of corrosion on them. Aluminium oxide type corrosion. There you go, tightened up. I'm not going to be thread locking anything in. Seems okay. So the baffle plate needs to go in first. We'll put the breather in from the outside. You can just see the hole there. Just slots in, and you can see you've just got the other side of that baffle there to allow it to breathe. Okay, so looking down the threads in the actual engine case itself, you can see they are kind of, you know, when you look at them and it looks like sediment. And it's not sediment, it is just aluminium oxide corrosion. But I'm always reluctant to chase threads out in aluminium cases because you could end up taking the threads with you. So I tend to just do the bolts. So I'm cleaning all these parts up in just sort of regular parts washer, degreaser as I go. Really, that's just so that I can wash off any sort of grit that might have come out of the engine with them. I'm not trying to degrease them as such, but there's always going to be little bits stuck to them that you just can't see with the naked eye, especially when you've got worn out eyeballs. Just going to nip these up a little bit. There you go. Right, that's the breather pipe, goes in from the outside. I'll pop that on when I flip the engine over. You just need to line up the slots. So let's pop the spindle in. So this is towards the right hand side. Okay, and then I'm going to get the first fork, and you just need to orientate the pin towards the bottom. It doesn't matter if the pins fall out of the slot at this stage, because you can just, without the transmission shafts in, you can rotate them. There you go, that's the first one. Now the second one is marked centre, so that pin in there on the end of the sort of locking bolt, you just need to wind out, and then you need to orient it so that it goes into that hole. So get them lined up. So I'm going to just take that out to start, I think. As you can see, that comes through. Get that roughly in the middle, turn it, and then hopefully we can get this bolt in. Okay, just to make sure we've got it lined up, but of course what I've got to do is get the last one on. So now I've got it all lined up, I'm just going to take that back out. Could be a little fiddly, couldn't it? Slot that there for a second. It's probably going to come out of alignment again. Maybe I should have marked that with paint pen or something. Get that one on. Yeah, you probably do all this in one go, to be fair. You've got a slight flat spot just there, and this locking tab washer just needs to go on there. Okay, so that one's now fixed on that rod. Okay, just need to slot that into there. Just yeah, orientate it when we get all the pipes and everything back on. So we just need to put the first retainer on, and it is a kind of, it's not round as you can see, it's quite clearly designed like that. It's got a flat spot and that does sit against a little lug on the case. So the easiest thing to do is pop it all together and slot it on as one assembly, and then just orientate that. And that should just hold that until it tightens down. Once it clears that little lug there, it won't go anywhere, I don't think so. Okay, right, just going to give that a nip up. Right, so you can see clearly that's just holding the end of that, sat on the outer race of the bearing actually, so we need to fit the lower one now. So this is the lower retaining bracket. I did damage it getting it off because I had to try and weld some nuts onto the old bolts. Didn't work, ground everything out in the end, replaced the case as I've mentioned. So I've just ground off where I've damaged it. It's perfectly okay. And these are 2 replacement bolts that I found in my spares. So let's pop this back on. So the first one I'm putting in is a countersunk screw, and I think that's because it needs to clear the external shift mechanism. And then on the other side it's just a 10mm hex head. Should Loctite them in, but I'm not going to. Right, that's the internal selector mechanism all fitted, so we'll crack on and start fitting everything else into these cases now. Let's pick out the next parts.